Okay, I've got a 2014 Ford Fusion here. This is a 2.0 titanium, although I imagine that this issue could apply to all the second gen Fusions. Basically, in short, what I'm having happen is it's not starting, won't crank, and I have a ton of error messages showing on the dash. So let's take a look at basically the symptoms that I'm seeing, and then we'll go over what I'm thinking is going to fix it. So the key fob is in the car. I'm going to put my foot on the brake. It's a push button start. You can hear the fuel pump run there. When I hit the start button, nothing happens. It should be cranking now. We've got a check engine light, and now all the lights are going to start coming on for errors and stuff. Takes a couple seconds. Here they come. Hood, low engine oil pressure, engine coolant over temperature, service advanced track. All of these errors come up, and no matter what I do, it doesn't work. So that's what I'm seeing happen. I went through some diagnostic things. For example, jump starting the starter to see if the starter wasn't working because it's not cranking. But the starter does work. I went through some other troubleshooting things. I checked all the relays in the fuse panel. Just switching them around. One of them is the horn, and one of them is actually the blower motor, so I switched that one around, and that didn't change anything. I also tested many of these fuses, and that didn't do anything. Also, I did try scanning for that check engine light several times using the OBD2 port. I bought a scanner for about 130 bucks at Harbor Freight. It could not read the car. It was showing a communication error. And then I bought the Blue Driver reader from Amazon. It also would not connect and read the trouble codes. So that is another thing that kind of points me to there's a PCM type issue, which isn't allowing me to read the trouble codes. That is a very, what I would think, uncommon thing to have happen. So unless you're having the same types of error codes in situations that I'm having, this probably isn't your issue. But because this is so unique, with all of those random errors happening at once, I think it's the PCM. So I actually picked up a new PCM and had it programmed by an online company. So we're going to throw that in, and hopefully it works. But again, I want to stress that this is probably a pretty unique issue and fix, if it does fix it, because typically you're going to have one check engine light and one code come on at a time. So if it was the starter, you would have some kind of trouble code for the starter. If it was the fuel pump, you'd have a check engine light for that. So again, unless you're displaying the same exact symptoms that I'm showing, I don't think you're changing your PCM is going to fix your problem.
So it's been a couple weeks since that last clip, and I just want to run through everything else that has happened with this car through troubleshooting and replacing the PCM, which we did do. It's right over there. Forgive me, my hands are white. I've been doing some tile work. But we replaced the PCM. This is the old one. And when we replaced it, we then got another clue that this is probably bad, because there are parts that are just floating around in there. So that's another indication that in our case, this was bad. So when we put the new PCM in there, we had told the online company our VIN number, and they made all the updates and programmed it to our VIN. So we were hopeful that we could just plug and play this into the car and it was going to start. Well, when we swapped it over, the car would still not start. You push the button, nothing happens. However, our key fobs still worked. And we were then able to read all of the trouble codes on the computer. So we had several trouble codes we were now able to read. And I've got a list here on my phone of all of the trouble codes, and hopefully this can see them, and you can pause the video and read them. But the biggest two here are the power control module codes, and of these two codes, it's the P161A, incorrect response from a mobilizer control module. And effectively what that means is the PCM we had installed does not have the key that our body control module has stored in it. So when those two try and link up the keys don't match, the car won't start. And guess what? The only people who can get those keys to match is Ford, at least in my area. I called all of the local locksmiths. No one could do what's called a parameter reset, which is how you get those two to communicate to each other. Now, maybe in your area, they can do that, but in mine, they can't. I have to take it to Ford in order to do that parameter reset, which will get those two talking to each other and clear that code. So it was nerve-wracking, and I was worryful that it wasn't going to work, but it worked. We took it to Ford. We had it towed to Ford. They did the parameter reset. They had to go through a couple other things of code clearing, but effectively they were able to do a parameter reset and the car was able to start. There were, like I said, a couple other codes that they were able to relearn and reset as well. And now I have no check engine light, and the bill from Ford was $240 for the parameter reset. So overall, I am totally happy with that. I was afraid Ford was really going to hand it to me, maybe tell me that they won't program this PCM because I didn't buy it from them and it wasn't new, and all of these things that you worry about. But they were actually really great. They had my car back to me within the same day. They were going to work on it. So to recap, in my situation, it was the PCM that went bad. We'll get in the car, start it, just to show you. No check engine lights. And it runs great. We've put quite a few miles on it since Ford programmed it, and everything is working good. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to fix this totally myself. I did have to get Ford involved, but I make this video and put it out there just to show my situation, because there was no one else online who had this problem and was able to fix it. So maybe if you come across this, you can at least have a jump start or an idea if you have to take it to Ford, or whatever your situation is. You can use this video as a reference of, hey, I'm having the same problems as this guy and this is what he did to fix it. Maybe we can try it. It costed this much, and then just weigh that against your other options. So PCM was bad on this car. We're up and operational. So have a great day, and yeah, hope you learned something.